All right. Welcome. We're having some windy weather today, so hopefully
Yeah.
this recording goes well. We are doing the Take Your Health Now podcast. Thank you for joining. This week, we are going to talk about some current events because this year it seems like we've had a lot of those and we've had a lot of questions. And I know a couple weeks ago we did one kind of what's going to be coming up this year. So now we're going to dive into some very specific things. Um, a lot of this natural health, big changes in the health space. We're getting healthier. Like we talked about before, a lot of this is kind of the opposite. So we want to give you guys that information. These are things you should really understand. Don't just blindly jump onto these trending things this year. It's kind of crazy. All right, so um, we are Kendra Duquette and Jenny Wise. We run Take Your Health Back Now. We have this whole system for foundational health. If you haven't been with us before, take a look at that. We are currently focused on the preventative health practitioner certification and training. So if you are interested in this arena and want to help others and want to have your own business, reach out. Otherwise, subscribe, like, and share. All right.
Yeah. And one other thing I was going to mention with what you were saying, it's not only to be aware, but it's also to remember that you cannot wait for some other entity to come in and save you. Like you can't wait for all of these new rules to roll out that are going to change everything for you, like the pyramid change and the different things like we're going to talk about. And they're all good steps in the right direction, some going forward, some going back. It's like back and forth. But you can't wait for all of that somebody else to save you. I mean, you literally have to do the foundational work yourself, and then you can completely turn your health around. But part of doing that yourself is understanding this. And we have had a lot of questions, so we're just going to run through the things that have come out in March. So we're what, the 13th of March today?
Friday the 13th.
Woo! So we're 2 weeks in, and there's been a lot.
There has, yes, yes. This is, I mean, like Kendra was touching on, we are at its core an empowerment company. So we want to empower you guys, and having all of the information is really the only way to be empowered because then you can make an informed decision either way. So, take all of this information, process it, and then do with it what you will. Obviously, if you've listened to us or are listening to us now, you're probably going to be on the same side as us, but you're free to make your own decisions.
Right. We just want you to have the information because that's health freedom. You can have the information to then make your own choices, right? So, one of the things that came out that we got a lot of questions on this last couple of weeks is that now they're saying that they're going to be teaching nutrition in medical schools because that's something we know that conventional medicine people go through medical school, they're not taught nutrition at all. And that's a big gap in conventional medicine. They're not taught about real nutrition or environment, and how that plays into chronic disease. But the question is, who is going to teach that nutrition? And what are they going to be teaching? And more than likely, it's not going to be, I mean, it'll be a good step, but it's not going to be what really needs to be taught and understood. So don't feel like now doctors are going to learn all of this great nutrition and, be able to spread that to their patients because that's
Right.
probably not going to happen.
No, and it's one of those things that, I mean, it's crazy that this is not like a something required in medical school already, but there are already diets that are promoted by different medical entities, like the American Heart Association, things like that. So it's not like there isn't any information out there and they're just going to start from scratch and build the best nutrition information ever. They're going to use what they have that's conventional, that's based on the old school information that's already out there. And it's really probably just going to focus on calories and, food groups rather than actual foundational nutrition, what is healthy for the gut, digestion, so it, like Kendra said, this is a good step, but this really isn't going to impact people in their home lifestyle in any kind of real way.
Right. And if you think about, so a good example is, so the food pyramid was swapped, right? It was turned backwards, which was really good because it did put it in a better proportions
Right.
than what it was previously for so long. But you've got to take into consideration sourcing, that type of thing. So, for an example, my stepdaughter had an appendicitis like last year, and she had to go into the hospital. It was that bad, and she had her appendix removed. And then the hospital food that they gave her was all packaged and just disgusting. Just all packaged stuff. So now, more than likely, what will happen is they'll get a real meal, but you got to think where it comes from. It comes from GFS or Cisco or something like that, where it's not organic food to begin with. It's
No,
overly
it's just that
processed.
packaged food like two steps back. It just hasn't
Right.
been put into a package. It's like even like school lunches now, even though they might not all be packaged, it is literally comes from a package and then is heated and then is served on a plate. Like that's probably where it'll go. So it's a couple steps back, which is a good improvement,
Right.
but it's not good.
Right. It might come from real food, but
Right.
it is not organically grown at all. It has been in all kinds of packaging. They probably microwaved it. It's probably got dressing and seasonings that have questionable
Right.
ingredients in them. There's all kinds of things. So anyway, just keep that in mind. Who is actually teaching this nutrition? And the best thing to do is just do it on your own. Start doing what we tell you to do.
Right. And if you don't know what is foundational nutrition or the diet that we talk about or what we recommend, then work with a preventative health practitioner
Right.
and they can guide you through that.
Right. And the other thing just to think about with diet, so many people are their bodies are completely overwhelmed. And if you're having symptoms, that's the case, and you are reacting to everything. So just changing, if now your doctor is telling you to eat real food, that's not going to help you because you still have to do certain things to get past this period in your life where your body is reacting to everything. So there's a lot that goes into it. So just kind of keep that in mind because everybody's like, "Yay, this is a huge win," but it is in a way, but it's a very small step. So just keep that in mind.
And
Um,
we're always looking forward, like generationally moving
right,
forward. Hopefully, this is a great step because then those next generations down the line maybe won't get to the point where they're reacting to everything because this is the way it'll be from when they were little. But the people who are listening to this now, it's not going to reverse anything.
right. And then the second thing that has come out, General Mills has pledged to remove synthetic colors from school portfolios. Yay! That sounds great. Everybody's excited. But if you took colors out of processed food, it would be beige. I mean, it just would. It would be disgusting looking.
Why do you think they have to add it to begin with?
Right. Naturally, food has color, and that's what we're attracted to. We are naturally, as humans, because that's what we are designed to do. We're designed to be attracted to
And when the
fruit
food
or
is not ripe or overripe or too processed or nutritionally void, it is an ugly color so that it
right,
looks unappetizing so that you won't eat it.
right. So if they're taking, and remember, when it comes to big companies like General Mills, um, they're always looking at their bottom line. It all comes down to money. So just because they're taking it out, they still have to put something back in. And they are not going to now be sourcing organic beets from the local farmer to put into their food. I mean, that's just not the way it works. So what happens is they're not putting synthetic chemicals in anymore, but now they're going to replace it with synbio or biotechnology colors that we've talked about in previous podcasts, which are equally as bad.
Probably cheaper.
Probably cheaper, might be worse actually. Um, but they can remember they can say it's natural. It's a
Right.
natural
So
color.
now they're going to add something in that is probably saving them money. It's not
Right.
required. They're just pledging. So it's marketing. They're probably going to charge more because they're like, look at these improvements. We're becoming more natural. It's better for the kids. Schools need to pay more. So they're probably profiting quite a bit.
Right.
And they're making it sound like, oh, we're going to make these concessions because it's better for health. We're finally waking up. Oh my gosh, what were we doing? No, no, that's not what's happening.
No, yeah. So always look at big corporations are there to make money, and what if they're taking something out, they have to replace it with something. So a good example of that, just to remember, is when everybody found out that BPA was bad, in plastic. And so all of these companies pledged to take BPA out of plastic and they made it BPA free. So when you buy plastic and it says BPA free, people assume it's better. Well, it's not, because that BPA had a purpose in the plastic. Like, it does something. So they had to replace it with something else. So what they replaced it with actually has now been proven, because there's been enough years since they did that. It's been proven that it was actually worse for health. So that's just an example of what happens. So just keep that in mind, because I've seen so many, posts on social media and that kind of thing. People like, yay, this is such a huge win. But it's really not. Really, the big win is just don't eat it. And, this is schools. So sending your kids with lunches to school. School is a hard one with lunch.
Yes.
I mean, even at school, kids trade lunches and things like that. But that's really the best thing you can do.
Right. And this is definitely one of those areas where, we're talking about this and we're saying just don't eat it, send your kids with food. But there are definitely people out there where this is the only, like kids, where this is the only place they even get food.
Right.
So, again, what fits in your lifestyle, just have the information. If you're going to starve or you're going to eat crappy food, that's a really hard choice. We're not judging people who have no money and this is the only way their kids can eat. But at least you need to have the information and understand what they're putting out.
Right. And I guess a better way to say that, from what I should have said, is there's so many kids that is literally, that's their food for the day, what they get at school. But we just need to, as consumers and as the public, we need to remember to not just say, yay, huge win, and leave it at that. You have to still be standing up and saying, we need this to change.
Right.
And, I guess that would be a better way to put it, because there are kids that rely on that breakfast at school and the rest of the school lunches. There's so many people. But yeah, we need to not be complacent just because they put that
Right.
in place.
Right. And when a huge billion-dollar profit company does something voluntarily, it's really important to look back and see how they're profiting. It's either because if they don't do it, they're going to lose a bunch of money, or because it is actually helping their bottom line. And just the side effect or the spin makes it seem like they're being altruistic, because they're generally not.
Right. And another thing with that too is, just because they took out synthetic colors, that doesn't mean it is devoid
Oh,
of all nutrition, dead food, full of preservatives, full of GMOs, full of synthetic biology
sodium and sugar.
and sugar. So yes, so that's the main takeaway. Just don't get on the bandwagon of, oh yay, and then walk away and forget about it. The next thing on our list is, it was a signed directive to accelerate the 6G deployment. So I would imagine everyone is pretty well versed or has heard that 5G is not good. I mean, just wireless in general for your health, the EMS for your health. But the 6G is something different, and it is Like if you really look into it, it's kind of crazy. So we won't really dive into it, but it's something to be aware of. So a big part that I think we talked about, we kind of touched on in the last podcast on the peptide therapies. They're going to this precision medicine, which precision medicine comes from these biosensors that will be internal in the body. And 6G is complementary to that. You know, this precision medicine, precision agriculture, precision energy, everything is precision right now that they're stepping into. I mean, it's not
Precision
future,
therapy.
like
That's
literally right now.
diet. Yeah.
Right. But it has to then play with 6G. And the other thing with 6G, because it works with implantable technologies, and it's not like implantable a chip, you know, that you have to say, yes, please give me that. Um, this is nanotechnology. So these are things that, you know, like there was a study that came out from NIT in November saying that they were doing this, but it's nanobiology sensors. So it's in the smart dust. We breathe it. We really probably all have it in our bodies. There's not a way to avoid it. You just need to be as healthy as possible. So you're detoxing, but they work together. So anyway, just kind of keep that in mind when the 6G is rolling out. So it's not necessarily a good thing.
Right. And that's like, unless this is the very first time you've ever listened to us ever,
Right.
then
We just freaked you out.
yeah, then you understand this is kind of the same sort of thing we talked about with the food. Like they're going to spin it that this is great and that we're improving this, that, and the other, and we're moving forward and we're great and we're technologically advanced. Again, look into why. They wouldn't invest billions of dollars into upgrading technology and networks and all of those things unless there was a big payoff for someone or some organizations in it. You know, there's lots of places in even the US where you can't really access stable internet at all. So they're not doing this to help people and make it all, foundationally better. They're doing it because there is a profit, a payoff, and that things need to be upgraded in order for certain agendas to move forward.
Right. And it's all about data harvesting. There's all this. I mean, we should just do a whole podcast on it, but just be aware of it because that is definitely something that came out. So when they say they're accelerating the rollout, that means they are accelerating the rollout, and that's now, you
I mean,
know.
they're telling you.
Right, exactly. And then, I just put this quote down with a star. I put, so health technology is shifting from fitness wearables. So, you know, like people wearing Fitbits, your smartwatch, and now there's the Aura rings, the different things like that, to integrated intelligence biocompatible systems that directly feed into gene therapies, which is what we did our last podcast on. If you want to go back and watch that, if you haven't, and personalized precision medicine. So that's what we're talking about. So, I think we should just do a whole podcast on that because it's a lot, but it is literally what is happening. And you have to know, you have to understand this in order to choose not to partake in it.
Right, where the wearables were, bad for many reasons that we've talked about, go back and listen. It was still something external that you were putting on and that you could, remove, and that the data was pretty localized unless you were sending it. And you could choose to look or not look. They're moving towards things that are much more like you won't think about it. You're not wearing this giant watch, you're not taking it off. It's probably not messaging you as much. It's going to be something that's more convenient. You won't have to think about it. You can't take it off, but you don't have to put it on. And it's going to be sending data to companies that are, in real time looking at it more than just kind of staying localized. That way they can develop new things for you that are precision. But those new things aren't going to be free. It's not going to benefit you in the moment. So it is that whole convenience and just don't think about it piece that we have to keep an eye on.
Right. And think about too, the wearables that people are wearing now, they're both a transmitter and a receiver. So it's
Right.
constantly 24/7 going back and forth unless you take it off, like Jenny said. These will be internal, constant 24/7 back and forth. And then, yeah, the idea is to be reading your biology from within so that they can say, well, you could be going down the route to getting an autoimmune condition. So let's do this, take this, or, your blood pressure is high. We're going to prescribe this medication. It's like medicine in real time, which is not, there's so many things wrong with
Right.
that. Keep that in mind. And the other thing that's crazy, but it's true, with
Mhm.
this, the 6G, they're going to harness the body's energy. So we talk about this all the time. Our bodies are energetic. We are energetic beings. Everything is energy, right? And so they can then harvest the energy that our bodies produce to run these things, which is free energy, and then you're connected to the internet of bodies, which sounds futuristic and crazy, but look it up. It's not, we're already there, so keep that in mind. The other thing that we wanted to mention was, so last week or last podcast we talked about the peptides, um peptide therapies, which is turning into a huge thing. uh And so this, I think it was last week, they released, I guess there were 17 peptides that everybody wanted, but they were considered a category 2 under the FDA, which means
Right.
that you have to have a doctor's prescription, basically, because they can cause problems. That's why it's category 2.
Right.
So now they move 14 out of the 17 to category 1 so that they're more accessible to people. And so a lot of the people, the practitioners in our space and the natural, holistic space are like, yay, this is amazing. Now our, clients can get these peptides and this is great. But I went through and looked up every single one that they released to category 1. Every single one of those is made by a biotechnology company. Just that should cause you pause. And every single one of them are either mRNA technology or what we were talking about in the last podcast with the transgenic animals that they harvest the peptides from that have been cloned and have human DNA in them. And it's a
Right.
whole, it's crazy thing. So go back and listen to that one. But so not one of them is something natural that you should be putting into your body.
Right. If it was something very natural and very gentle and easy to come by, it wouldn't have been a category 2 substance to begin with.
Right. They just changed it, and it's still not FDA approved, which really doesn't mean anything, but just the fact it's not should give you pause. And also remember that most of these are injectables, so you are injecting them into the bloodstream where they shouldn't be. Most of them are nanotechnology, which means nanotechnology means that a nano size is 1,000th of a strand of hair. So think how thin a strand of hair is, and it's 1,000th. So these nanotechnology peptides are able to cross the blood-brain barrier. They're able to go into the cell. There's no protection where,
Right.
body
And
has natural protective.
I think that sometimes the technology part of that throws people. So it's not like this
Right,
is a little tiny bug running around going to get you. It's the technology is there that makes it capable to make these things very small. So
right,
that's the technology. So now these molecules are so small that our natural biology has barriers, but they can pass through them because they're so small.
right.
Nothing in nature, well, some things, but nothing that we would be consuming would naturally be that small. So we have the blood-brain barrier, we have the intestinal barrier, we have our skin as a barrier. These are all meant to block things out of certain sizes. And this technology where we can make things teeny, 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 tiny is bypassing all of those systems. So now things are crossing barriers that they wouldn't have before, even if it was like a very natural, gentle substance. If you make it that small, it's going places it shouldn't.
Right. And if you have taken something natural and made it that small, you have just changed it.
Yes, it's no
as well.
longer the same thing.
Right. But just because they release them does not mean it is a good idea for you to take, is my point. So let's see what else we have. Oh yeah, here's the list of all 14. they're all so bad if you really dive into it.
Something I've noticed, which is kind of funny, but along the same marketing and trending and using keywords, is that they're talking about these peptides as something that you would take, or, they're very specific. But now anything that could possibly have a peptide in it, which we've talked about before, are in, like, they're in everything.
Right.
um, it's labeled. So even like skincare, that they didn't change the formulation at all, and now it says with peptides.
Right. Because
Like
it's
it's on
marketing.
everything
Everybody
now.
wants it.
Yeah.
Everything that's anti-aging too,
Yeah.
because it will make you feel better, make you look better, that kind of thing. And again, when we always say, you can't skip the foundational work, you can't skip doing the right things, you can't skip avoiding what is making you sick in the first place. And so people have this false illusion that if they take these peptides or they use these creams with peptides in them, they don't have to change anything. But now they're going to be more youthful and feel better. And another thing, just think about, I mean, we're back on the peptides, but your body makes naturally thousands of peptides, and a healthy person makes peptides from protein. You eat your protein, your body breaks it down and makes peptides for all different systems of your body. Every system of your body has different peptides, but if you're taking peptides, you're taking a couple, and another thing to think about with peptides or anything else that goes along with this, if you're taking these, now your body doesn't have to make them. And so your body, that system, or that, what is producing that hormone or the peptide, whatever, it atrophies, basically. It doesn't have to work anymore. So that's just something to keep in mind that's off topic. And another thing, this is just an example, kind of like the peptides, but it's the same idea of what's happening with the 6G and the precision medicine. I mean, they all tie in together. We talked to somebody this week that had alopecia, and he was trying to decide whether to do the foundational work that we teach, or do stem cells, getting stem cell therapy, because the stem cell therapy has been shown to regrow hair. But the problem is the stem cells are synthetic, they're biotechnology, they're not your stem cells. They have reprogrammed your stem cells. And he didn't fix any of the causes that caused him to have this autoimmune condition that made him lose his hair. So I feel like people are going to really jump on this bandwagon, but down the road, they're just going to get sicker and sicker because they have not fixed anything except for on a surface level, So just kind of keep that in mind. Those were the ones I had for the podcast. Did you have anything else?
No, I think those are, I mean, it's crazy that these are just things that have really come up in the last couple weeks. Like we
Right.
said, this year was going to be crazy. We meant it.
Right. There's been so much. Yeah, that's been 2 weeks. So again, as always, what we always talk about, whether you've heard us or not, is stay as natural as possible. Eating from your local, the last podcast we did was we had an interview with one of our local farmers here that said much further than regenerative farmer. He's a naturally certified farmer, really doing awesome things. Work with somebody like that, get your food from that, grow your own food, that type of thing, make your own products, all the things we always teach. That is how you truly stay healthy. That is how you age in reverse. That is how you biologically age rather than chronologically age. All the things that they're telling you.
Right.
That is how you prevent. That is how you take a proactive approach. And that's one other thing. And we mentioned that before, but I think we'll have to keep mentioning this. All the words that they're using right now: longevity, regenerative medicine, prevention, proactive approach, biological aging, all the things we always talk about, they're talking about for all of these things. So don't fall for that.
Yes, the magic pill, the Band-Aid, those types of fixes are never a good choice.
No.
You have to do the work. You can't skip the steps. It's not as easy, but it actually works. You might, like we've said before, with these types of fixes, you might see some improvement in the short term, or you might stop seeing the certain symptoms, but that doesn't mean they're not there underlying. And it definitely means that you haven't changed what caused the problem to begin with. That Kendra mentioned it. We'll say it again. This is like the basis of our entire system. So you have to fix the cause of the problem, or the problem will just keep recurring and keep growing.
Right. And you think about, so I'm speaking coming up at the National Health Federation convention in Dallas, and my whole talk is on biology versus biotechnology, which is really what we're talking about here. And it really comes down to a choice. And I feel like it's always the same thing we always talk about, except for if somebody had told me 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that we'd be talking about this, I would have thought they were crazy, but it has shifted that way. But the answer is still always the same. And it's hard work. I mean, it is, but it's life changing. And you can change your life and you can live healthy in this very fast, increasingly unhealthy world, or you can do the easy way. It's kind of like Cinderella with the witch that has the apple. Just take the poison apple.
That's Sleeping Beauty.
Well, whatever.
I was like, Cinderella, where are we going?
That's Snow White. No, it's Snow White, right?
Oh yeah, Snow White.
But anyway, they always have the enticing, over here, magical, easy. Right. But it's not easy. You have to do the hard work if you really want to stay real and live healthy. Or you can take that easy fix, but it's a fix, and eventually it's going to catch up with you,
Actually, all of those princess stories, Cinderella, it only worked for 12 hours, and then I should do all that work.
Right. I know. I was just in my head thinking, I'm like, oh yeah, every single one of them is like that. But it really comes down to that. The hard work, do the work, or take the easy way out.
And suffer the consequences.
Right. Like the snake. What's that movie with the snake with the eyes going like this? Take the thing.
Jungle Book.
Yeah. Anyway, but hopefully this helped. And I'm sure we'll be doing more because there's so much changing. With the Maha movement, trying to implement this healthy stuff and get people healthy. Well, it's a great idea, but it's tiny steps that really,
right. And it's also that top-down thing where you're letting someone else do your work, like you have to be empowered. You have to do the work from your point of view. I mean, that the large scale environment is changing and becoming more, I guess not more healthy, but less toxic, is great, but you cannot really be empowered when you're just relying on top down, change.
Right. And that's the thing. And also one other thing to remember with this, and I'm sure we'll talk about again, they're definitely moving away from synthetic chemicals, which have been such a huge problem and have caused so much of this, chronic disease that's happening now. But what they're moving into is this biotechnology, synthetic biology, which is no better. There's no testing, there's no long-term studies. It could be much worse, who knows? But it's definitely not better. So even that comes back to that, what we're talking about in the beginning with the General Mills. They're taking one thing and replacing it with something else. So just remember that. But even though they're doing that, and some of the stuff that we're moving into sounds crazy, futuristic, just hard to even wrap your mind around, you can still, it comes down to choice. You don't have to partake in it. You really don't. You just have to choose to do the right things. And if you want to learn what those are, if you don't know, then definitely reach out to us. One of our
Yes. So, like Kendra mentioned, I think we're going to do more of these kind of bite-sized for us
right.
current topics where we dive in and talk specifically and maybe not so much, so many different things. Um, we'll try to do more of these. So we're doing right now every 2 weeks. So twice a month, there should be a new podcast. You can subscribe on our podcast channel or on our YouTube channel, and you'll get notifications. Otherwise, we always post on our social media when new episodes come out. So be on the lookout. It always helps if you subscribe, gets the information out there more because of algorithms. So we appreciate that. Otherwise, just share if this resonates and you think someone else needs to hear it. We appreciate that. And you can reach out to us all the different ways. We have it everywhere.
And also remember, what we do is we teach our preventive health practitioner certification training, and that is what we train people. We train practitioners to use our system, which is what we talk about all the time, so that you don't have to be learning this yourself. You can just go through and learn it from us. And then, if you want to start a business or you have a business, helping people at that foundational level to really do this the right way so that they can live healthy in our increasingly unhealthy world. So yeah, if you're interested in the certification, reach out. It's
Yes.
amazing. So have a great day. I'm sure by the time we do our next podcast, there will be lots more nuggets to talk about.
Yes, for sure. All right. Bye.
Bye.